Okay, I know this is short notice. Um, so, and I'm hoping that somebody shows up. I had when I'm out in my orchard, and I usually spend a lot of time out there on the weekends. I get downloads, and this video is about one of the downloads that I got about how the 12-step programs, the 12 steps from the program of alcohol that originated with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous could really be a template for especially empaths, introverts, sensitive people who are wondering what to do in these times of crisis and chaos. Can be a template for action. And as I was getting this download, I thought, when I get these downloads, I really have to, let me move in here. I really have to fix my shirt, first of all. Fix my shirt. I really have to honor that, even though this is a little bit divergent from what I usually talk about on this channel, but I think it's very pertinent to our theme of healing for the summer, first of all. And it's something that when I get the downloads, I actually need to share those downloads. It's been a persistent thing for me. Um, if you haven't seen my other video about how introverts deal with civil unrest, this is sort of the follow-on. This is like the, well, show me universe, the practical steps. And I'm not actually, I just want you to know that this is not something that I pulled out of my head as, oh, this is a good idea. I do have experience with the 12-step programs. I actually was working a 12-step program when I did my first, I guess you would call it my first level of spiritual awakening in my 20s, without even knowing that that's what it was. And then I got into drug and alcohol counseling through the Navy. I mean, I went to school for drug and alcohol counseling in the Navy. And in that training, I realized that what I had done in my spiritual awakening was actually the 12 steps. So I know that that the languaging of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous can be kind of triggering for some people and may not be um, globally pertinent for 100% globally pertinent for where we are today in our consciousness. And it's important to understand with the 12 steps that a gentleman by the name of Bill W. had experienced his own alcoholic recovery from alcoholism and discovered these steps or developed these steps back in the 1940s. So I was looking online to see if I could find some languaging that would be more updated, more expansive, and maybe more pertinent to the topic of how we can use the 12 steps to heal society's problems. Now, the download that I got while I was in my orchard about this is that, and I'm sure that if you're concerned about what's going on the planet today and the global change and chaos that has ensued, sometimes violently, sometimes with great frustration, and people wanting to express themselves, heal their wounding, maybe take their wounding out on others. There's the whole gamut here on the planet, and it's highly individual as well. But if you look at the whole big picture, you can understand that this thing that we're going through, this thing that we're experiencing at this point in time on our planet, is because we've had layers and layers. We've inherited, as the humans that we are, right? Oh, there we are. My internet may be unstable, but we've inherited so much dysfunction that so much dysfunction, so much wounding, so much history of war in our cellular structures, in our epigenetic DNA, whatever that is, in our inherited behavior patterns, in our conditioned behavior patterns. And it's and within that are layers and levels of addiction and abuse and just unbalance and in a lot of respects sickness, at its very lowest level, and at its very best, there are opportunities here to rebalance, to work through, to get to a higher level of consciousness. So I want to share these 12 steps with you. and if you're familiar with them, uh, awesome. And I'd love to, on this channel, just have some back and forth with you about how these steps can be applied to internally to heal our own social and collective dysfunctional patterns. And if you're familiar with the 12 steps, probably the best interface to kind of understand where I'm getting at with this is like working the program through Al-Anon, or adult children of alcoholics, or something like that. Not all of us can necessarily relate to the addict's journey, and the addict's recovery. But all of us witnessing and living on in our societies today can probably relate to, unless you've already worked all the way through this, and you're not watching me, you're watching somebody else, most likely, if that's the case. All of us can relate to the bystanders, the family members, as we watch things play out on the world stage, as we watch things play out in our community, as we deal with our own wounding around the chaos, deal with our own healing around the chaos and what's coming up to be triggered. Now, one of the tenets of the 12 steps, or as you're thinking of it in terms of Al-Anon or families of alcoholics, one of the tenets is that we can't change that person, right? We can only change what's inside of us. And that's why I feel like these 12 steps are really a powerful, grounded template for personal work, that if enough of us do it and we reach a critical mass in the shifting of our inner selves, right? So that we have an effect on the world around us. And that's where I delve into, everything that I'm seeing out here is a reflection of something that is coming from in here that I need to shift and change on my own, or shift and change inside of me to create something different in my projection field. And I'm not just saying that from being a human design projector type. I'm saying that from having an aura, like all of us have, an energy field that sort of mirrors life back. So if you want to play, I'm going to go through these 12 steps in the way, and I left a link of the resource that I have here of the best description of the 12 steps in the way that I feel like you can adapt it to your own individual path of making change within yourself that has an effect on those around you. So the first step has to do with honesty. And I'm just going to read it and then we'll talk a little bit about it and adapt it. After many years of denial, recovery can begin with one simple admission of being powerless over alcohol for alcoholics and their friends and family. So, this sense of powerlessness and coming through the denial that we have control over the dysfunction that's out here in the world is like the first step of just getting honest about, the world is kind of messed up. I'd use another word, but 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 YouTube might not like that. But you get the idea. It's really right, up is down, down is up. You don't know what to believe. It's kind of crazy making if you get into it and you pay attention to it. And that's like the experience of being in a dysfunctional family. That's like the experience of being in a family with a narcissist or a drug user, a drug addict. If dad's a drug addict, or if dad's a narcissist, or mom, or the brother, your brother, or whoever, your sister, whoever it is, everybody sort of tries to adjust to make it okay, to fix it, to rise above it, in the spiritual world, to spiritually bypass what's actually going on here in the real life, right? So if we look at society, it's about getting honest about what are we doing here? What are we, what are we powerless over here? And there's a lot that we individually cannot change, especially from the level of top-down action, right? And there's a lot that we cannot make right about what is happening here. So there's this sense of just admitting that this is the way it is and it is just messed up. So that's the first step, honesty. And it doesn't have to be like I have the channel of judgment in my human design chart. So I'm going to say it's messed up, right? But if you want to be more neutral about it so that you're not triggering or you're not taking yourself down the rabbit hole of negativity, just being honest in that place of neutrality is extremely powerful. I am observing this happening in my community. These people are reacting this way. These people are reacting this way. I am experiencing and feeling this without judgment, with reservation of judgment, but just the honest, this is the way it is. And that's the first step. Second step is faith. It seems to be a spiritual truth that before a higher power can begin to operate, you must first believe that it can. Now, regardless of your religious upbringing, your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, whether or not you even believe in a higher power, there's this sense of understanding that we are all connected. And I think in this era of high technology, we can kind of see that, here we are interrelating on the internet, whether you're here live or you're here next month or next year, we're connected, right? And if you're particularly spiritual, you kind of understand that you kind of believe that there maybe is a higher power, there is a broader energy and a web that connects us all through our consciousness. And if you're religious, if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, you have a God, right? So that is powerful. So, it's having that faith in something that is bigger than yourself, or understanding and recognizing that there is a power that's bigger than yourself, and that you can begin to kind of relax into that. In human design, and human design is not a spiritual program, but energetically, we kind of recognize that there's a program of, we use terms like fractals. We have fractal lines of people we're connected to through our consciousness, that we're attracted to. those kinds of things, you know, and that program sort of operates in response to us and whether or not we are truly aligned with our designs. So it can be as general as that the thing that you are exercising faith about. Step 3 is surrender. A lifetime of self will run riot. I love that term. Self will run riot. I just love it. It applies to the human design journey. You know, it applies to the monkey mind, you know, trying to control things from the level of where you don't have any control. So a lifetime of self will run riot can come to a screeching halt and change forever by making a simple decision to turn it all over to a higher power, to that broader energy that that you are recognizing is there, that synchronizes us all. However, your perception or your belief system explains that. So, you know, having that surrender to the program, surrender to the will of God, surrender to what is, you know, all of that uh, brings us further, or can bring us further as we go into ourselves, um, into a place where there is potential for that deep healing that then affects the world around us. Step 4, soul searching. There's a saying in the 12-step programs that recovery is a process, not an event. The same can be said for this step. More will surely be revealed. So I don't remember exactly how this is. I think this is the step. The 4th step is the fearless moral inventory in traditional AA speak. Taking that inventory every day, really, to really look at where you are, what's being called out of you, what's being triggered, what's a true expression of you, where you are in terms of your own grounding, um, and where you are in terms of being in a more harmonious and balanced place with yourself, with your truth, with your ability to relax into the flow of your own life. And you know and also on that more 3D level, I guess, you know, where your actions are taking you, where are your thoughts taking you, where is your heart taking you, where are your day-to-day choices taking you on this journey, and where have they taken you up to this point? So that's the searching, that's the soul searching. You know, that's what I do in my journal. You may do it in other ways through your own meditations or going out into nature and really being receptive to understanding what's in here, where you've been, and where it's taking you moving forward. Step 5 is integrity. I'm just going to open this a little and see what we've got here. Step 5, integrity. I might save this. Step 5 is about probably the most difficult of all steps to face. Step 5 is also the one that provides the greatest opportunity for growth. And I believe this is the step where you are you're actually admitting to yourself and to another person your shortcomings, the things that you really need to reconcile and to make right. And this is about bringing yourself into integrity. So, you know, this is the place where you are you are going to, I'm actually probably, it's been a long time since I've done this, bear with me. I actually have to look at the steps to see. Okay, this is not, so step 4 is making a searching and fearless moral inventory, and step 5 in traditional 12 steps is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So yes, this is where you actually have to come forth and maybe take responsibility, personal responsibility for how you've been misaligned, what actions or lack of actions or attitudes or whatever have contributed to the creation in this case of what's going on around us, right? So that's step 5. Step 6 is acceptance, and acceptance is accepting your character defects exactly as they are and becoming entirely willing to let them go. So I just went through something with my human design peeps around the deconditioning blueprint, and it's that's what just came up to mind, you know, of accepting that we have influences around us that have contributed to behaviors that are not aligned with the true expression of who we are, the true expression of what we're about, which is what we're really here to contribute to the world. Um, and you know, character defects can be kind of triggering, but we all have these shortcomings. We all have these ways that maybe we have abdicated and uh, not taken responsibility for ourselves, right? Responsibility for our actions, for our attitudes. And there's this need to really truly accept that, so that you can say, hey, this is what it is in my life. This is how I've been in my life up to this point, and now that I know better, maybe I can do better. um, so it's not a thing of, if you're triggered by the term character defects, it's not about judging yourself or you know, punishing yourself, uh, or punishing your shortcomings. It's just about really seeing what's there in the landscape and what has created your attitudes and your actions up to this point. Step 7 is humility. The spiritual focus of step 7, being humility, is about asking a higher power to do something that cannot be done by self-will and mere determination. So this again is about, it's another kind of like another level of surrender. And in traditional 12 steps, humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. So, you know, this is that place of just releasing, of just recognizing and allowing those things that are really not a true resonance of where you are now, where your consciousness is now, where your, what you establish as the true expression of you and your power moving forward. Just releasing those things that you've done, you've said, you've thought about, you've perceived up to this point, so that you can move on, and so that you can really truly step into that next level of well-being and functionality within a society that's evolving. Step 8 is willingness. Making a list of those harmed before coming into recovery may sound simple. Becoming willing to actually make those amends is the difficult part. So this is about making amends, you know, and I think a lot of people, especially in this Black Lives, in the peak of this the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff, there's a lot of debate on should amends be made for past things that we maybe not have had anything to do with, and there's no amends that you can make unless you've taken the inventory and it comes from your heart. There's no amends that can actually, this is my opinion, okay? There's no amends that can actually have a lasting effect unless it comes from this place of really being able to recognize what your part is in it, and really recognizing it from the heart and making amends. So the act of making amends can be seen as kind of an energetic act, even if you can't see, like, maybe your family had slaves, and maybe you've done a lot of work to release and heal that, right? And maybe there is no direct connection between your slave, the slave owning history of your family or your lineage, and where you are now. But what can really make a difference in the world energetically is the fearless inventory that leads to who do I need to make amends to right now in my life? And that doesn't seem like it's connected, but when we start to just say, oh, I misperceived that situation. I reacted, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about in society. I misperceived that. I overreacted, and I want to apologize, or I want to make it right in whatever way that you feel that you need to make it right. Now, when we're talking about, the strict pathway of recovering from addiction, usually it has to do with, having stolen money, or having abandoned your children, or those kinds of things that happen with addiction. But in these small inner ways that we can actually do this for our friends, our family, our neighbors, to understand that, after doing that soul searching, that there are things that can be done. Things like, I'll use a personal example that just came up. Buying something on Amazon, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I do that, and I'm sure a lot of us do, when I can actually purchase it from my neighbor down the street. Making amends in that case, for me, would actually be going into that store and saying, hey, from now on, I'm going to purchase this thing from you. And I've been doing it on Amazon all this time, but I want to get it directly from you instead of from somebody that I don't know in my neighborhood. So that's an example, I guess, of amends. And, if there are those deeper things like having, not being fully there for your children, or having, maybe there are ways that when you do your inventory, you discover you've been cheating someone out of something. Going back and making those amends in your real life has an effect on everything around you, forward, into the future, into your past, along your timeline, the whole thing, because it's the energetic act of doing that from the heart that makes the difference. Forgiveness, step 9. Okay, I jumped ahead. That was step 9. Step 8 is actually just making the list. So humbly asking to have step 7, humbly asking to have your shortcomings removed. Step 8, make a list of all persons that you've harmed and become willing to make amends. So you have to kind of know who they are in order to be able to make amends. So this is something that could be very useful in your morning practice, in your daily self-reflection practices that you can do day by day of, who have I shorted here? Who have I not given my attention to that needs attention? Who have I bought from that who have I not bought from that I could be supporting right now? Those kinds of things. Who have I really hurt by my words, my attitudes, my actions? Those things, if done on a daily basis, lead us to step 9 of that making amends. And I'm not going to go back to that, but you get the idea. Step 10 is maintenance. And continue to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So that's what I was talking about, like the introvert's path of introspection and reflection. These are really helpful little details of what to do when you're in that place of self-reflection, meditation, clearing your way, tuning into yourself, that can make a difference in understanding what actions you can take from the inside out that will have a powerful effect on the world around you, on your family, on your community, and then rippling out into society at large. And then step 11 is making contact. So this is like the spiritual growth part of this. In traditional terms, it's about seeking through prayer, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So again, surrendering over and over to the flow of how you have been created to operate, to live a life that you are meant to live on this planet as a fully empowered human being, a sovereign, fully empowered human being who contributes to the connection and oneness of us all from this place of your own connection within the field of consciousness, within your connection to your higher power, your spirituality, all of those things. And then step 12 is about maintenance. Having that, this is the 12th step is about really maintaining your own spiritual awakening, your awakening of consciousness in this respect. And as a result, well, in traditional 12 steps, it's about carrying the message to other alcoholics and supporting other alcoholics. So, from this, there's like 11 steps here before internal steps, and some externals of making amends and all of that, and talking to someone and telling them where you've fallen short in taking responsibility for what's yours to take responsibility for. But it's only in the 12th step where there's really this need to take this external action of supporting others. And it's only after all of this other stuff has happened, this other stuff of really looking at things honestly, looking at your life and what's going on around you honestly, establishing that faith in your higher power, in higher consciousness, whatever it is, in surrendering to the flow of life, to the program, to what is in your life. Soul searching, going inside and really searching, really understanding what's in here that has gotten you to this point. Then, integrity, making that step where you share with another person where you feel that you have fallen short. Accepting where you can do better. And all of this is internal. It's still that internal reflection. Humility, being willing to do better because you know better. Um, being in a place where you can make amends, that's a little bit of that external, making amends to those that you can do better with. Um, maintenance, yeah, or forgiveness of maintaining that whole cycle of reflection and surrender, reflection, making, admitting, accepting, making amends over and over and over again. It's still that internal work, and then only after that is there really that need to maintain it by supporting other people. So, as a follow-on, this is a follow-on to how introverts deal with civil unrest. I hope that you found this at least interesting, thought-provoking. I know a lot of you are probably living this already, but I thought it was worth bringing out the system, I guess, sharing the system. And if you're at a loss for what to do, and you're looking for a way to have an impact, even though you're more internally focused, it's worth reviewing these steps, or working with these steps to bring more of you, or to ground more of you, to purify your heart, so that you can be more of an empowered supporter of others as we elevate our consciousness, as we, as societies, heal our wounding, and of course, all of this has to do first with internally healing your own wounding, me healing my own wounding, so that we can be that presence in the world that supports other people on that 12th step. So I know that this is like kind of heretical if you're doing the 12 steps. Hey, yeah, hi. Thank you for joining me. To thine own self be true, self-responsibility. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you've lost sight of that, this is a template that can kind of bring you back into that. So I really want to thank you guys for joining me. I know that this is, if you're a real serious person who's in recovery, you may think that this is just crazy, but that's the risk I take of being burned at the stake at times. And like I said in the beginning, I have to share these things when I get the downloads, and share the resources that can assist at least some of you um, in feeling your own power, so that you can step forward in that moving forward. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. And I'm going to sign off here. I've got a ton of things to do today. Ton of things to get ready for, because my stepmom is coming this evening. So got a few things to do in my business. And oh, thank you. Yeah. I take for granted that people have shown me, are familiar with the 12 steps. So I'm delighted that I'm able to introduce this to you. But you've already applied them. That was exactly my experience as well. When I got into drug and alcohol counseling when I was in the Navy, I realized that the reason that I resonated so much with this is that it's it was my own experience and my own spiritual awakening, and that it has the 12 steps have a far-reaching healing influence, or can have a far-reaching healing influence in the world, if each of us actually worked a program that was something like the 12 steps. So thank you for joining me. Yeah, very helpful with human design. Yeah, just rely on a martyr heretic to to take something from somewhere else and put it together with something else with human design. So anyway, I'm going to get off of here, and thank you very much. Please feel free to like this video if you like it. It really actually on YouTube, it helps the algorithm. Share it with other people, invite them to subscribe to my channel. We are still talking about human design. We really are. But I'm also really feeling this pull to share some of these other things with you as well, to create, to assist you in some of the practical aspects of navigating where we are right now at this time. And also because some of these things that I'm going to be sharing with you, maybe a little bit out of the box. So there's a little bit more to come on that. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday. And there will be more to come very soon. Bye, everyone.